After kicking up a storm on same-sex relations by upholding the validity of Article 377 of Section 377, the Supreme Court has revealed some of the reasons behind its decision. Headlines Today has been able to access the Apex Court's order that puts the ball in the legislature's court, saying the Parliament should have amended the law after the Delhi High Court order. According to this order, Naz Foundation, the petitioner in this case, had miserably failed to highlight discrimination by state agencies. In fact, there was no sufficient proof of homosexuals being discriminated against at all. According to the Apex Court, less than 200 people have been prosecuted under the law in the past 150 years. Also, the court felt the petition was not to strike down Section 377, but only to water it down. Incidentally, Justice G.S. Singhvi, who delivered the verdict, retired today.
यदि 6 सालों में मुझसे किसी प्रकार की मन वचन और कर्म से गलती हुई है तो आप मुझे माफ करेंगे.
The Supreme Court has now asked the Parliament to decide on whether the law that criminalizes gay sex should be struck down. So far, politicians have been largely supportive. We've heard supportive voice coming in from the Trinamool Congress, from the Congress and also the JDU. But will they eventually do what they have promised?
It's now up to India's netas, the same unruly bunch that has so far refused to function properly. They are the gay community's last hope. With the Supreme Court leaving the decriminalization of consensual gay sex to the legislature, where exactly do India's netas stand on the issue?
The Supreme Court has given decision and we have to abide by that decision.
To discriminate against people who have a particular preference is not something that I would advocate. I haven't seen the Supreme Court judgment. We'll be debating its implications later. But in principle, I think all human beings should be treated equally.
Voicing their support for gay rights are the Trinamool Congress, the Communist Party and even the JDU.
Very disappointed in this liberal world we live in today, because sometimes the court does some very interesting views on red lights. I just hope they did the same thing on gay rights.
You can't criminalize same-sex relations which are consensual. I mean, this is not a crime. This is dependent on the individual. And how can you criminalize any kind of alternate sexuality?
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जो पलट दिया उसके साथ हम सहमत नहीं हैं. ये हाई कोर्ट का जजमेंट जो है बिल्कुल ठीक था. आदिकाल से चला आ रहा है. इसको नहीं कबूल करना जो है हमको लगता है नादानी है. दुनिया के कई मुल्कों में इस बात को कबूल किया गया है, बल्कि गे मैरिज तक को इजाजत दी गई है.
The only party that's been cagey so far is the BJP.
I will not like to comment on the Supreme Court judgment. Well, once the Supreme Court has said, maybe the Parliament will take cognizance of it at a suitable time.
The government now has two options to uphold the rights of the gay community. It can either introduce an amendment bill to decriminalize consensual gay sex under Section 377, or it can pass an ordinance to that effect, much like it attempted when it tried to allow convicted MPs to retain their seats.
The 15th Lok Sabha just has 2 sessions left, the current winter session and the next year's budget session, the last before 2014 general elections. Can our MPs walk the talk and support the landmark equal rights legislation? They're running out of time to prove their intentions. With camera person Sanjay Chaudhary, Atir Khan in Delhi for Headlines Today.
So essentially, are the netas going to do what they have promised? They say that Section 377 militates against civil liberties. Will a legislation be passed to not criminalize, to in fact remove the criminalization of homosexuality? Anjali Gopalan, Executive Director of Naz Foundation, is with us. Also owner, filmmaker John Dayal, Secretary General of the All India Christian Council, is with us in our studio. Also with us is G. Anant Padmanabhan. He's the Country Director for Amnesty India. And Mr. Kamal Farooqi, a member of the All India Muslim Personal Law Board, is also with us in our studio. Finally, Rose Venkatesh, activist, is with us from Chennai. Anjali, I want to start with you, because now that we've got the judgment, a part of it says that the reason why the judgment could not go in your favor, the reason why the Delhi High Court verdict was overturned, was because not enough evidence was given to support the claim that homosexuals in India were discriminated against. What would you have to say? All right, we'll try and get back to her in just a bit. Mr. Padmanabhan, would you like to take that question?
Yes, that is actually a very surprising claim, because you know, the evidence is all around us. If you look at what people are saying, if you look at the opinions that are even our judiciary hold opinions that are held in society, you know, and if you look at the lived experience of and the testimony of gay people, this is quite a surprising claim, because there is plenty of evidence, plenty of real hard-lived evidence that there is substantial and systemic discrimination. To equate discrimination with prosecution under the law, I think is also a mistake, because in a country like India, you know, for example, how many people would have been prosecuted under other laws, which, let's say, you know, prevention of Dalit atrocities against Dalits and so on and so forth. So the prosecution is not a good indication of discrimination.
Honour, that is a subject, in fact, that you've dealt with. One of your films has evocatively shown the persecution at the hands of law enforcement agencies of people who are of a different sexual orientation. Would you agree, obviously you don't agree with what the Supreme Court has said, that in India, persecution of homosexuals doesn't necessarily take place, and there is no reason why Section 377 should be struck down?
Important thing is, you know, I remember doing a lot of research while working on my film, and there is a lot of evidence of how the law is constantly used over and over to harass and discriminate gay people. And secondly, I don't understand this entire concept of why does one need any kind of evidence. The fact is that it's a constitutional right towards equality, and having right to protection against any kind of discrimination. And the very nature of this article, IPC 377, is discrimination. So I don't know what more evidence than the entire nature of IPC 377 itself is self-explanatory that it is discriminatory.
Absolutely. Father John Dayal, I want to bring you in at this point. Section 377 says that any kind of sexual intercourse that goes against the laws of nature is not legal. But the fact is that now there are activists who are claiming that this does not go against nature. It is natural. It is a matter of choice. How can then this be illegal, sir?
Life is based on heterosexual sexual encounters which lead to procreation, and anything that does not, is the Church's view, is therefore not in conformity with nature. But here we are not contesting or supporting or opposing what has happened in the courts today. The Christian community and the Church, the faith community, let me put it, is not bothered about the law. This is the domain of the legislature and the courts. Our concepts are in morality, in what is sin, and in Christian faith, even heterosexual sex outside the bounds of marriage.
No, but why should sex be natural, Kamal Farooqi, only when it leads to procreation? Because that opens up a whole new debate.
No, it's not new debate, as my brother is saying very rightly. It's a question whether you follow it or not. As far as the morality is concerned, yes, we agree that there should not be any discrimination. They should not be treated badly. There should not be unnecessarily persecution about that. But at the same time, we cannot encourage this homosexuality, because it is against the basic concept of the natural laws, which are the religious laws.
Who's made these natural laws? This is your morality and your laws that you're talking about.
But the laws have been made by nature.
No, but what for the word has been created?
No,
that's a different.
This is the problem.
Yeah, that's a problem. In fact, my thinking and your thinking may be different.
A certain section that we are trying to make into law. That's the problem. I mean,
to us, you may not agree with us, but to us, God has.
I don't have to agree with it. All I'm objecting to is trying to turn some opinions into law that is applicable to everybody. I have no objection whatsoever to some people saying for themselves they do not, they think that a certain way about homosexuality or anything else. But to say that my view must be made the law of the land and must
nobody
be
has said
imposed
that.
on
I don't think anybody has
all
said
individuals.
We entirely
That's the
agree with you.
problem.
I think it's our view.
No, but
It's
Abhina,
our view.
isn't that what has happened? Because while two different moralities can coexist, when it becomes the law, Abhina, then you have a certain section who don't only find themselves sidelined, but also find themselves persecuted by the law.
Absolutely, I think law should not decide what an individual should do from the perspective. Law should not intervene into the personal boundaries of an individual. Unfortunately, people has to understand about this law. Okay, this law talks about the sexual practice. It can happen between the man and a woman. It can happen between a man and a man. So first of all, I just want to clarify to the larger desk that it is not only about homosexual community. It's about sexual behavior, and it will also put you in a danger as a heterosexual person if you are indulging in anal sex or if you are indulging in oral sex, because that is something, the sex that which we are not kind of talking about having for a procreation. Now by nature, we are human beings and we explore our entire sexual practices and sexual behavior, and we experiment with our own bodies. Now when we talk about this perspective, unfortunately, if you look at the Indian scenario, this law was amended by British, but it has been so far so good. It has been used against the homosexual community. Homosexual community is because it has already been stigmatized. It's already been discriminated, and it's a mindset of a people where people are trying to categorize what is right and what is wrong. Unfortunately, we don't have any answers what is right and what is wrong.